I pulled into Rustwood around 4:30, engine ticking, the sun throwing long shadows over my mom's driveway. I hadn't been back in over a year, and honestly, I expected more than a half smile and a stiff side hug. "Happy birthday, honey," she said, stepping back like she had groceries waiting. "Listen, we had to cancel dinner. Things got tight this month, and we are helping Tyler with his Europe trip. You understand, right?" I said, "Yeah, of course," just like I always did. Even though inside, I felt that same sharp sting I'd known since I was 12. No, sorry, no mention of a rain check. Just a shrug and a casual betrayal. She didn't even wait for me to come in before turning back toward the kitchen. I stood there in the doorway for a second, keys still in my hand, watching her move around like I hadn't just driven 4 hours for nothing. It wasn't about the damn dinner. It was the way she said it, like canceling my birthday was no bigger than changing a light bulb. Quick note, before we start, how's your day going and where are you joining from? Inside, the table was covered with Tyler's travel brochures. Rome, Paris, Berlin. Some of them were marked up in red pen, my mom's handwriting, tracking hotels and prices. "So excited for him," she said as she flipped through pages. "It's a once-in-a-lifetime kind of trip." I just nodded. My palms were tight on my thighs. They didn't know I was flying to Zurich next week. First class. Then Singapore after that. All business. My net worth passed 20 million last spring, but in this house, I was still just the older one who didn't need much. Tyler walked in an hour later, dropped his duffel bag like he owned the place, and gave me a bro hug. "Yo, happy birthday, man. Sorry about the dinner. The flights jumped $200 last week. Can you believe that?" "Yeah," I said. "Wild." He flopped on the couch, launched into a story about some girl he matched with who lived in London, and Mom laughed like it was the most charming thing she'd ever heard. I sat at the kitchen counter, watching them. They didn't ask about my drive, didn't notice I'd lost weight, didn't care that I'd left a board meeting with investors from Japan just to get here. And that's when my phone rang. Natalie, my assistant. That call would blow everything open, but honestly, the signs had always been there. In this house, I was never the favorite. I wasn't even close. I learned early not to expect much. Rustwood wasn't a big town, and in our house, you didn't get praise unless you demanded it. I didn't. I kept my head down, followed rules, turned in every assignment on time, didn't slam doors or skip class. That made me the easy one. Their words, not mine. Dad came home with grease under his nails and barely looked up from the paper. Mom corrected kids all day and came home with nothing left in her tank. I got used to quiet. I got used to hearing, "Can you help with dinner?" instead of, "How was your day?" Then Tyler was born, 5 years younger, and it was like the house flipped upside down. He cried louder, ran faster, smiled bigger. If I was steady, he was fireworks. He lit up every room, and they loved it. By the time he hit middle school, they were calling him our little heartbreaker. He played Pop Warner, and when he scored, Dad damn near lost his voice cheering. I'd been on the math team that same year. We won state. Mom didn't come to the awards night. Tyler had a scrimmage. I remember asking once if we could go out for dinner to celebrate my SAT scores. I'd gotten a perfect in math. Mom smiled and said, "Oh, honey, we really can't afford that right now." 2 weeks later, Tyler got cast as a tree in the school play. They invited the whole family and went out for burgers after. He was in acting classes by sophomore year, debate camp the next summer. They paid for it all. I asked for a graphing calculator once, the kind everyone else in my class had. I mowed lawns for 3 weeks to get it. No one offered to help. My senior year, I worked at the gas station on Main Street, took night shifts to save for college. They said they were proud of me, but proud in that distant way, like a stranger's kid you read about in the paper. I remember packing up my beat-up Civic the day I left for Oregon State. No banner, no pictures. No, "We'll miss you." Tyler was busy practicing for football tryouts. They hugged me, quick, no tears, no speeches. That was the whole send-off, and I went. 18 years old with maybe $200 in my account, and a half scholarship that didn't even cover books. I figured I'd figure it out. I always had. Meanwhile, Tyler coasted. He stayed home 3 extra years, did community theater, took random gen ed classes, dropped them halfway through. Finally, when he decided on a theater degree, they co-signed loans and helped with rent in Eugene. "You were always so independent," Mom said once on the phone. "But Tyler needs a little extra." Yeah, he always needed a little extra, and they always gave it. When I called during college, I kept it light. Told them everything was fine even when I was working night shifts in the library and pulling C's because I couldn't stay awake in class. I didn't want to stress them out. Tyler called them about auditions, girls, roommates who didn't do their dishes. They picked up every time. I figured maybe once I graduated, things would change. Maybe they'd see how hard I worked, but by then, they were deep into Tyler's world, his first lead role, his graduation from a program I helped pay for without them knowing. I showed up to that ceremony in a shirt I bought from Goodwill, sat in the back while they hugged him like he cured cancer. He looked surprised to see me. "Dude," he said, "didn't think you'd come." Of course I came. I always showed up. They just never looked for me. After Tyler's graduation, I didn't hang around long. I drove straight back to Portland, ate a drive-through burger in my car, and stared at my apartment ceiling until morning. No one asked how I was doing, not even a "made it home okay" text. That summer, I started sleeping in the back of the office I was renting for $200 a month. It was barely big enough for a desk and a cot. The bathroom was down the hall, shared with 3 other units. I kept ramen packets and peanut butter in a drawer. I'd landed a job at a tech support company, just grunt work, running cables and setting up routers in warehouses across Oregon. Long hours, crap pay, but it gave me something valuable, time around logistics. I watched inventory guys screw up orders, mislabel products, lose track of pallets, and I thought, this could be fixed. So at night, after work, I taught myself how to code. I didn't sleep much, I didn't party, I didn't date. My Ford Focus had over 100,000 miles on it, and my landlord threatened to evict me twice. I kept going. By the time I was 28, I had a prototype. A lean little program that tracked inventory across multiple warehouse zones, predicted demand trends, flagged human errors, and suggested corrections in real time. Nobody cared until one mid-sized chain in Spokane gave it a shot. They called me 3 months later, blown away. Errors down 40%, productivity way up. They referred me to 2 more clients, then 5, then it snowballed. I officially launched Redline Systems at 30, just me, a website, and a secondhand MacBook. I wore the same button-down shirt 3 days a week and held meetings at coffee shops pretending I had a full staff. When I finally hired my first employee, a junior dev named Chris, I was still sleeping at the office. My mom would call once a week. She'd ask if I was still doing that computer stuff. Then she'd pivot to Tyler. He got a call back for something with Netflix, or maybe Hulu, we're not sure yet. I'd say, that's great, and go back to work. By 34, I had a dozen employees and a real office downtown. By 36, we were pulling in over 8 figures in contracts. That year, I was invited to speak at an industry conference in Chicago. I sent my parents tickets, first class, nice hotel. They didn't come. Tyler had a show that weekend. "You understand, right?" Mom said. "He's the lead this time." When we passed 90 employees and signed a national chain, I don't know what broke in me, but I stopped sending updates altogether. I stopped waiting for them to ask. By 38, I was a name in the industry, not famous, but known. We had clients in 21 states, an HQ with a rooftop view, and offices in 2 other cities. I kept the company lean and mean. No fluff, no useless meetings, no outside investors breathing down my neck. My net worth passed 20 million. I didn't buy a mansion, I didn't buy a sports car. But I did buy my freedom. I stopped pretending. Even after everything I'd built, they still thought I just worked with computers. That's what Mom called it whenever she explained what I did to her friends. "Oh, he's in tech. He works with computers." Like I fixed printers in a strip mall. Every Sunday I called because it felt wrong not to. And every Sunday I hung up feeling smaller. They'd talk about Tyler's auditions, his new protein shake routine, his open mic night at some bar with 10 people in the crowd. One time, he landed a local commercial, 2 seconds of screen time, and Mom posted about it like he'd won an Oscar. I'd say something like, "We closed a deal with a national chain last week," and she'd go, "That's nice, sweetie. Anyway, Tyler might be flying to LA next month." So I stopped trying. I sent money through the company. I kept my name off everything. If they needed a new water heater, a roof patch, car repairs, it showed up paid for by Redline Client Services. Mom once thanked me on the phone. "Whoever that company is, tell them they saved us." I almost laughed. I didn't want credit, not really. I just wanted something. A question. A real one. Like, how's your life, son? But it never came. So when I called to say I'd be coming home for my 44th birthday, the silence on the other end told me everything. Oh, Mom said. Well, that'll be nice. Like, I just offered to drop by between errands. I told them I'd drive in Friday and stay through Sunday. They said sure, no mention of dinner plans. No, we'll bake a cake. I booked a regular hotel room, even though I had the points for a suite. Rented a black SUV that blended in with every other car on the highway. I left the Rolex and the tailored coat at home. Wore jeans, boots, flannel. Told myself I wanted it to feel normal. Truth was, I didn't want to give them any reason to say, well, he thinks he's better than us now. What I really wanted, stupid as it was for them to notice me. Maybe this time they'd look closer. I didn't expect balloons or a banner, just a little curiosity. Instead, when I pulled into the driveway, Dad was cleaning the gutters like it was any other weekend. Tyler's car was already parked in his old spot. No one came running out. No one stood at the door. Just like always, I had to knock. Mom answered and smiled like I'd just dropped by for coffee. Look who made it, she said. Tyler got here an hour ago. He's telling us about his Europe plans. You'll love hearing all about it. And just like that, I was back in my old role, the quiet one, the easy one, still just the tech guy. I dropped my bag in the corner of my old bedroom. Same walls, same faded posters, same dent in the dresser from when Tyler slammed his skateboard into it sophomore year. No one asked if I wanted to unpack or settle in. Mom yelled from the kitchen, "We're just doing pizza. Hope that's okay." I blinked at the closed door for a second. Birthday dinner. Canceled, apparently. When I came out, Tyler was already halfway into a story. So, the hostel in Berlin, it's like right in the arts district. They've got this courtyard where local musicians hang out. Super immersive. He popped open a can of sparkling water, like it was champagne. Mom slid a box of pizza onto the table and said, "Hope mushroom's still your favorite. It was on sale." It wasn't. Hadn't been for 20 years. Dad sat down with a grunt, reached for a slice and mumbled, "We figured, with the flight prices going up last minute, it made sense to keep things low-key." That was it. That was the explanation. Not one word of apology. No, we wish we could do more. Just, airfare was expensive, so screw my birthday. I looked at the table. No candles, no card, no cake. Not even my name, Aaron, anywhere in sight. Tyler took a giant bite and kept talking, mouth half full. Honestly, this trip's going to be transformational for me. Just being in Europe, you know? The history, the culture, the energy. I feel like I'm finally stepping into my real path. Mom nodded, eyes wide like he was delivering a TED Talk. "You've earned it, sweetheart. You really have." Then Tyler glanced over and said, "I mean, if it's a big deal, I could push the trip a week, but everything's already booked." Before I could say anything, Mom cut in. No, your trip is important. He understands." I bit down so hard I felt my jaw click. "Yeah," I said, "I understand." They moved on like nothing happened. Dad asked if Tyler had packed enough Dramamine. Mom reminded him to bring an extra converter for his charger. I sat there chewing a slice I didn't want, nodding like I wasn't quietly swallowing a big ball of disappointment. After dinner, Tyler put on some dumb travel documentary and stretched out on the couch like a king. Mom brought him tea. I went back to my room. Laid on the same twin bed I had in high school, staring at the same ceiling tiles I used to count during those nights when the walls felt too tight and I just wanted out. Nothing had changed. I pulled out my phone, looked at my calendar, meetings, flights, investor calls, product launch prep. A life so far removed from this house, it might as well have been on another planet. And still, part of me had shown up here hoping they'd surprise me, that maybe they'd saved the good plates or planned a little dinner out. Something. Anything. Instead, I got a mushroom pizza I didn't like, and a reminder that, once again, Tyler was the one worth celebrating. I rolled onto my side, tucked my arm under the pillow, and stared at the wall. I felt stupid for coming, stupid for thinking this year would be different. The worst part, I wasn't even angry. I was used to it. That's what hit hardest. I wasn't shocked. I wasn't hurt. I was just tired. The next day dragged like wet cement. No one mentioned my birthday, not even in passing. By dinner, I wasn't expecting much. I walked into the kitchen and opened the box. Olives and mushrooms. The one combo I couldn't stand. Didn't you used to hate olives? She asked, casual, like it was a distant rumor. Still do, I said, flat. She blinked. Oh, well, that's what Tyler wanted. Of course. I sat anyway, stomach twisting. Dad poured himself a glass of boxed wine. Tyler scrolled on his phone, humming some indie song. Then Mom lit the candles. On the cake, a store-bought sheet with smeared frosting and the words, "Happy birthday, Ron." Ron. I stared at it. No one even noticed. Tyler started clapping like a joke. Make a wish, bro. I didn't blow out the candles. I just stared. Then my phone buzzed on the table. Natalie. I answered without thinking and hit speaker, more out of habit than anything. Hey, just confirming your flight to Paris for the education summit, she said. You still want the presidential suite at the George Fiv? I can lock that in now. The room froze, forks midair. Tyler's mouth hung open. Mom blinked like she'd misheard. I didn't say anything, just let the silence land. Natalie kept going. Also, the head of logistics for that Swiss robotics firm is asking if you'll do a private lunch. Want me to add that to your schedule? I tapped the screen and ended the call. Nobody spoke for a solid 10 seconds. Then Dad cleared his throat. Paris? Yeah, I said. Work stuff. Tyler looked like someone had pulled the rug out from under him. Wait, that was your assistant? Her name's Natalie. And you're flying to Paris for a summit next week? Mom looked stunned. But why would they put you in the presidential suite? Because I'm the keynote speaker. Dad leaned back, arms crossed. You never said any of this. No one ever asked. The cake sat there, untouched, Ron melting slowly into a smear of blue and white. Mom finally spoke again, voice small. You're not just working with computers? I looked right at her. I own the company, Redline Systems. Started it when I was 30. Tyler blinked like he'd been hit. Redline? The one that does software for big chains? That Redline? I nodded. He rubbed his jaw. Dude, that's huge. No one said anything for a long minute. The only sound was the little flicker of the birthday candles still burning, still waiting for someone to care enough to blow them out. I didn't plan to drop all this tonight, I said, but I'm not going to pretend anymore. I've been doing everything I can to stay connected. And you guys didn't even spell my name right. Tyler glanced at the cake. Yeah, that's pretty bad. Mom reached for a napkin, started dabbing at the edge of the frosting like that would fix it. Dad muttered, Jesus, under his breath. I stood up and grabbed my coat. Don't worry about the suite. I'll cancel the reservation. I've got a better use for that money anyway. Tyler sat back, arms folded. Like what? I didn't answer. I walked out the front door, got in the SUV, and let the engine idle. I could still see them through the window. No one followed. I didn't drive off. I just sat there in the dark, engine humming, fingers locked on the wheel. 10 minutes later, the porch light clicked on. Mom opened the door, squinting into the night. You coming back in? She called. We didn't mean... I shut the engine off and got out. Inside, the candles were gone. The cake was in the fridge. Tyler was still at the table, arms crossed, chewing his cheek. Dad stood by the sink with his back turned, like washing one dish would make up for everything. Mom motioned to the couch. Can we just talk for a second? I didn't sit. She looked up at me. Why didn't you ever tell us all this? I shook my head. When did you ever ask? She flinched like I'd slapped her. I mean, actually ask. Not just how's work in passing. Not small talk. I mean, really ask about me. What I do, how I feel, what matters to me. When was the last time either of you gave a damn beyond a 2-minute check-in? Tyler leaned forward. Okay, dude, we get it. You're pissed. I cut him off. Number. You don't get it. This isn't just about tonight. He stood. You think you're the only one who's had it rough. Maybe I didn't build some mega company, but I've struggled too. I don't get to fly to Europe for summits or stay in presidential suites. You think this was handed to me? I snapped. You were given more support at 18 than I've had my entire life. I worked 80-hour weeks while you were getting coached through audition monologues. Mom stepped between us. Stop, both of you. She turned to me, voice tight. We've always been proud of you, but you never needed anything. You were the strong one, the independent one. You didn't want us involved. No, I said. You just didn't notice when I did. She went quiet. You liked me better invisible, I said, staring right at her. Because I didn't ask for anything. I didn't drain your energy or your money or your attention. I made it easier for you to forget I existed. Dad finally turned from the sink. That's not fair. What part? I said. The part where I called every Sunday and sat through Tyler's updates while you didn't ask a single question about my company? Or the part where you couldn't even spell my name right on a birthday cake? Mom blinked hard. Her voice cracked. I thought you didn't want the spotlight. You always seemed content being on your own. I wasn't, I said. I just got used to it. Tyler let out a breath and sat back down. So what? You came here to rub your money in our faces? Number Y came here to reconnect. I thought maybe if I showed up, really showed up, something would shift, that maybe you'd finally see me. No one spoke, the fridge hummed, a clock ticked on the wall. Then Mom sat down, slowly, like her legs gave out. I'm sorry, she said. I didn't know. I should have known. Dad nodded once but kept his eyes on the floor. Tyler tapped his fingers on the table. I didn't know either. Smart kid, no drama, always off doing your own thing. Yeah, well, I said. Turns out disappearing's a hell of a skill when no one's looking for you. I didn't go back to the house that night. I walked out after the conversation, drove straight to the hotel, and didn't answer my phone once. Next morning, a knock came around 9. I cracked the door. It was my dad. Alone, no mom, no Tyler, just him holding 2 coffees and looking like he hadn't slept much. I stepped back to let him in. He took the chair by the window. I sat on the edge of the bed. Neither of us spoke for a good minute. He stared out at the parking lot like he was waiting for something to land. Finally, he cleared his throat. We screwed up. I didn't respond. I thought you didn't need us, he said. That's not an excuse. That's just the truth. I waited. He wasn't done. You were quiet, responsible, handled things on your own. Tyler, he pulled all the attention. Hell, most days we didn't even know what he'd break next. I let out a small breath, not quite a laugh. He looked over at me. But that's on us, not on you. You were the strong one, so we told ourselves you'd be fine. And then, we never asked if you actually were. I looked at the coffee he brought. Black, no sugar, just how I take it. He never used to know that. I stayed up last night, he said, reading about your company. He scratched his chin, eyes heavy. Redline Systems, logistics software, saw a Forbes article from 2 years ago. You really built all that yourself? Yeah. He nodded slowly. That's some serious stuff you built. I didn't know what to say. I'd waited my whole damn life to hear something like that, and now that it was in front of me, it just felt surreal. I'm proud of it, I said finally. You should be, he said, but I'm prouder of you, not just the company, you. I felt that one in my throat. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. You didn't deserve to be pushed aside like that, and I'm sorry I didn't notice what that did to you. I should have. I nodded. You don't have to forgive me today, he added. I just wanted to say it, to your face. I see it now. We sat in silence again, but this time it didn't feel awkward. It felt earned. I took the coffee and sipped. Thanks, I said, for coming by. He stood up. I'll head out. Just wanted to say what I should have said 20 years ago. At the door, he paused. You coming back by the house? I nodded. Yeah, in a bit. He gave a tight nod and walked out. I got to the house around noon. The driveway was empty. Quiet. I let myself in. The first thing I smelled was beef stew. Thick, rich, just like she used to make when I was a kid. Cornbread in the oven. Mom looked up from the stove when I walked in. Her face said everything before she even opened her mouth. I should have done this years ago, she said. I've been blind to how different we treated you. I stayed quiet. Let her say it all. I thought we were doing right by you, not needing to worry, not causing problems. But I see now, that wasn't love. That was neglect with a smile on it. She walked over, wiped her hands on a towel. I'm sorry. Before I could respond, Tyler came in from the back door, rubbing the back of his neck. Look, he said, already defensive. I didn't mean to come off like a jerk the other night. I raised an eyebrow. But, he sighed, I always figured you had it easy. You also got acting lessons and vacations, I said. He nodded. Yeah, I know. It's just, You never complained. You were always off doing your own thing. I didn't think you even cared. I stopped expecting anything, I said. That's not the same thing? He looked down, kicked the side of the rug. Well, I care now. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. We ate together. Real food this time, no frozen pizza, no fake celebration. Just bowls of stew and fresh cornbread, and a quiet that didn't feel so heavy. After dinner, I cleared my throat. I'm opening a second Redline office, I said. Not huge, 20, maybe 30 people to start. I want it here, near Rustwood. Dad looked up. Here? Yeah, there's good talent out this way. And I want to be around more. Mom looked like she might cry again. Tyler leaned back in his chair. You need help with marketing stuff, social media, outreach. I've done promo gigs for other bands. I know it's not corporate, but I'm sick of bouncing from job to job. I stared at him for a second, then nodded. We'll talk. He cracked a small smile. Cool. A week later, Mom emailed me asking for a Redline trial login. She wanted to track assignments for her tutoring students and thought the task system might help. Dad surprised me even more. Signed up as a remote mentor through one of our intern programs. Said he liked the idea of keeping his brain sharp. The changes weren't loud. They didn't hug me every 5 minutes or start texting every day. But they showed up in the little things. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like a stranger in my own family. 12 months later, almost to the day, I pulled into that same driveway. Different car this time, but same old house. The porch light was already on. Inside, the table was set with real plates, cloth napkins, candles, the whole nine. Steaks rested under foil, the smell hitting me the second I walked in. Corn on the cob, green beans, cornbread. Mom came around the corner with her apron still on and said, "Happy birthday, honey." She gave me a real hug this time, not a side shoulder tap, an actual hug. I walked into the dining room and saw the cake on the sideboard. Chocolate, thick frosting, piped letters. Happy 45th, Aaron. Spelled right. Tyler raised a glass as I sat down. All right, let's do this proper, he said, grinning. To my big brother, the one who built an empire and still made time to come home. I let out a small laugh and nodded. Mom followed. We see you now, son. Fully. Dad didn't say much, but he handed me a small box. Inside was a Redline Systems pen, one of the fancy metal ones we had made for conferences. He'd ordered it himself with my title engraved on the side. We ate, we talked. Tyler still hogged the conversation half the time, going on about a podcast he wanted to start. Mom corrected his grammar at least 3 times. Dad dozed off a little in his chair after dessert. It wasn't perfect, but I wasn't invisible anymore. They asked about our new product line, about the Rustwood office, about the team I'd hired. They actually listened when I answered. Later, after we'd cut the cake and cleared the dishes, Tyler nudged me. Hey, about that marketing job, still open? It is, I said. You still interested? Definitely, he said. I'm tired of starting over. I clapped him on the back. Then let's build something real. That night, as I sat on the porch with a second slice of cake and a cup of decaf, I looked through the window at the 3 of them, laughing, bickering, being loud and messy and completely themselves. But this time, I was part of it. That year, we didn't just celebrate a birthday. We celebrated finally getting it right.